The coins hit the reception desk one at a time. 25 cents. 50. $1. Ma'am, we don't. The receptionist started. Count it, Mara said. It's exact. Russell Combs stepped out of his office wearing the smile he reserved for clients he'd already decided were beneath negotiation. This is a $200 consultation fee, Mrs. Holt. Not a vending machine. Then it's paid, she said. To the cent. Behind the glass partition, a woman named Denise Ferris stopped typing mid-sentence. She looked at the account number on the intake form. Looked again. Said nothing. Russell gestured toward the elevator bank without waiting for her to finish counting. This way. Let's not waste either of our time. Mara left the last few coins on the counter, unstacked, and followed him. The conference room on the 44th floor had glass walls on 3 sides, and a view that cost more than most people's mortgages. Russell didn't offer coffee. He didn't offer a chair, either, until she'd already taken one. Let's be efficient, he said, flipping open a folder thick enough to intimidate someone less prepared. Your husband's attorney says you have no separate income, no employment history in 6 years, and limited grounds for a favorable settlement. That's what he told you, Mara said. It's what the record shows. Records are only as accurate as who's allowed to write them. Russell paused half a second too long, then continued as if she hadn't spoken. I'd recommend you accept whatever terms come across this table quickly. Judges don't look kindly on drawn-out proceedings from. He stopped himself. From what exactly? From parties without significant assets of their own. She didn't argue. She reached into her purse, set a small silver watch on the table, and checked the time without looking up at him. Russell kept talking, listing terms designed to make her sign before she'd had time to think. Custody stipulations she hadn't asked about. Asset divisions that assumed she had none of her own. A timeline that gave her 11 days. Mara said nothing until he finished. Then she opened her folder, slid a business card face down onto the table, and pushed it an inch toward the center, close enough that he could see the edge but not the front. I'll need copies of everything you just said. In writing. That's not standard for an initial consultation. It is today. He didn't pick up the card. He didn't ask what it was. That, more than anything, told her exactly who she was dealing with. She hadn't always been invisible. 6 years ago, when her father died, Mara had sat in a different conference room in a different building and signed papers no one explained to her properly. She'd been 28, grieving, and willing to trust whoever spoke to her in the calmest voice. That voice had belonged to a young associate named Russell Combs, 3 firms ago, handling estate transfers for families who didn't ask enough questions. He didn't remember her. She remembered everything. The holding company he'd helped structure that year, quietly, efficiently, without once explaining what controlling interest actually meant to the daughter across the table, had grown into something he'd never bothered to track. Mara had tracked it. Every filing. Every subsidiary. Every acquisition her father's estate had made in the years since, right up to and including the acquisition of Combs, Delacroix and Reyes itself, 18 months ago. Through 3 shell entities Russell had never once connected to his own firm's cap table. He hadn't recognized her name at intake. She hadn't expected him to. By the second meeting, Russell had stopped pretending to be neutral. Your husband's team made an offer, he said, sliding a single page across the table. Frankly, it's generous given your position. My position, Mara repeated. You haven't worked in 6 years. No income under your name. No assets under your name. He said it the way a man reads a verdict he's already decided isn't up for appeal. I'd advise gratitude, not negotiation. Mara didn't touch the page. Who holds the lease on Suite 4400? She asked. Russell blinked. That's this floor. I don't see how a lease is relevant to your divorce. Neither did I, Mara said. Until recently. He laughed, short and dismissive, and moved on to the next clause. 3 cubicles away, Denise pulled up a lease record she hadn't been asked to check. She read the tenant name, then the parent holding company listed beneath it. Her hand hovered over the phone, then didn't move. Between meetings, Mara waited in the lobby longer than she needed to. She watched associates move past her without a glance, The kind of invisibility she'd gotten used to since the filing became public. A junior paralegal offered her water once, then never again, as if she'd been quietly reclassified as furniture. She didn't correct anyone. Correcting people was for someone who needed them to know. She didn't need anyone to know yet. She checked her phone. One new email, sent from her own holding company's compliance office, confirming that the quarterly ownership disclosure had gone out to all managing partners 14 months ago. Confirmed delivered. Never opened. She closed the phone and waited for Russell to call her back in. Russell called her personal cell the night before the third meeting, something he'd never done before. "I wanted to discuss the settlement informally," he said. "Off the record. As a courtesy." "Nothing with you has been off the record," Mara said. "I've made sure of that. I'm trying to help you, Mrs. Holt. Your husband's attorney is losing patience, and frankly, so is my client. My firm's position, I mean." "Say what you meant the first time." There was a pause, the kind that told her he'd caught himself saying something true by accident. "I meant my client," he said again more carefully. "You represent me," Mara said. "Or did you forget which side of this call you're on?" He didn't answer that directly. He circled back to numbers instead, a slightly improved offer, still built on the assumption that she had nothing of her own to negotiate with, still delivered in the tone of a man doing her a favor she hadn't asked for. "I'll see you tomorrow," Mara said, and hung up before he could add anything else. She sat alone in her kitchen for a long moment afterward, turning the small silver watch over once in her palm before setting it down. Tomorrow would be the last meeting she needed to sit through as someone he thought he understood. The third meeting was the one that mattered. Russell brought his managing partner this time. A broad-shouldered man named Delacroix, presumably there to add weight to whatever pressure Russell hadn't managed to apply alone. "Mrs. Holt," Russell said, sliding the final settlement across the table like it was a favor. "This is the best offer you're going to see. I'd advise you take it, before your husband's patience runs out." "Before my patience runs out," Mara repeated. "Say that again." "Excuse me. Say it again. For the record." She turned her phone screen face up on the table. It had been recording since she walked in. Not just this meeting, every meeting. Russell's expression shifted, just slightly. "You've been documenting these conversations?" "Every one," she said. "Since the first." Delacroix's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down, frowned, and set it face down without reading it. It buzzed again 10 seconds later. This time he read it. "Russ," Delacroix said quietly. "A word." "Not now, I'm mid." "Now." They stepped into the hallway, glass walls doing nothing to hide the conversation from Mara's view. Delacroix's face changed color as he scrolled. Denise appeared behind them a moment later, holding a single printed sheet, not making eye contact with anyone. Russell came back in alone. His collar looked tighter than it had 10 minutes earlier. There's been a payroll hold placed on my account," he said. "This morning. I don't understand why." "Don't you?" Mara said. "Is this some kind of, did you do something?" "I haven't done anything today," Mara said. "Everything that's happening was already true. It just wasn't disclosed to the right people yet." Denise finally stepped in, setting the printed sheet in front of Russell without a word, then stepping back like she didn't want to be caught between what was about to happen. It was a corporate ownership disclosure. The kind mailed quarterly, filed without comment, opened almost never. Russell's eyes moved down the page once, then again slower. He found the name at the bottom of the ownership chain. Holt Family Holdings, LLC. 91% controlling interest in Combs, Delacroix and Reyes. This can't be current." "It's dated 14 months ago," Mara said. "You've had the envelope on your own desk since March. Unopened." Visual. A torn envelope beside the disclosure sheet. The paper inside still crisp from never being unfolded. Delacroix lowered himself into a chair like his legs had made the decision without asking him. "You own the firm," he said. "I own the building the firm leases from. I own 91% of the firm itself. And as of 9:15 this morning, I control whether Russell's name stays on that door at all." Russell shook his head slowly, as if disagreeing with a fact might undo it. "There's no way. I would have seen this." Someone would have flagged this during onboarding, during compliance review, Denise said quietly, still standing near the door. It was flagged 3 times. I flagged it myself in March, then again in May. Both times I was told ownership disclosures were, quote, a formality that doesn't require partner attention. Russell turned toward her, and for the first time in 3 meetings, he looked less like a man in control of a room, and more like a man realizing the room had never belonged to him. You knew, he said to her. I knew the name matched a filing, Denise said. I didn't know what it meant until she paid a $200 bill in exact change, and made sure everyone at the front desk had to actually look at the account number attached to it. Mara said nothing. She didn't need to. The coins had done their job 3 days earlier, sitting untouched on a marble counter, forcing one overworked clerk to look twice at a name everyone else had learned to scroll past. Delacroix cleared his throat, the sound of a man trying to reassert some version of professional footing. Mrs. Holt, I want to be clear that the firm takes any client mistreatment extremely. You don't need to perform for me, Mara said. I've already seen how this firm treats clients it thinks have nothing. I only came here to see it once in person, before deciding what happens next. Denise finally stepped in, setting the printed sheet in front of Russell without a word, then stepping back like she didn't want to be caught between what was about to happen. It was a corporate ownership disclosure. The kind mailed quarterly, filed without comment, opened almost never. Russell's eyes moved down the page once, then again slower. He found the name at the bottom of the ownership chain. Holt Family Holdings, LLC. 91% controlling interest in Combs, Delacroix and Reyes. This can't be current. It's dated 14 months ago, Mara said. You've had the envelope on your own desk since March. Unopened. Delacroix lowered himself into a chair like his legs had made the decision without asking him. You own the firm, he said. I own the building the firm leases from. I own 91% of the firm itself. And as of 9:15 this morning, I control whether Russell's name stays on that door at all. Russell shook his head slowly, as if disagreeing with a fact might undo it. There's no way. I would have seen this. Someone would have flagged this during onboarding, during compliance review, Denise said quietly, still standing near the door. It was flagged 3 times. I flagged it myself in March, then again in May. Both times I was told ownership disclosures were, quote, a formality that doesn't require partner attention. Russell turned toward her, and for the first time in 3 meetings, he looked less like a man in control of a room, and more like a man realizing the room had never belonged to him. You knew, he said to her. I knew the name matched a filing, Denise said. I didn't know what it meant until she paid a $200 bill in exact change, and made sure everyone at the front desk had to actually look at the account number attached to it. Mara said nothing. She didn't need to. The coins had done their job 3 days earlier, sitting untouched on a marble counter, forcing one overworked clerk to look twice at a name everyone else had learned to scroll past. Delacroix cleared his throat, the sound of a man trying to reassert some version of professional footing. Mrs. Holt, I want to be clear that the firm takes any client mistreatment extremely. You don't need to perform for me, Mara said. I've already seen how this firm treats clients it thinks have nothing. I only came here to see it once in person, before deciding what happens next. Russell tried once more, quieter now. Mrs. Holt, Mara, if I'd known who you'd have treated me differently, she said. That's not a compliment. That's the entire problem. I didn't mean. You meant every word. You just assumed no one who mattered would ever hear it. He had nothing that made it better. Delacroix didn't try to fill the silence either. Mara gathered her folder, stood, and glanced once through the glass toward reception, where a handful of coins still sat scattered near the edge of the desk. Leave those, she said. I didn't come here for $200. The consequences arrived within the week, quiet and procedural, the way real consequences usually do. Russell was pulled from partnership consideration, pending a formal review of client conduct. Delacroix personally reassigned Mara's case to the firm's most senior family attorney, along with an apology letter that arrived by certified mail, signed, dated, and entirely useless to the man who'd needed to write it 3 meetings earlier. The malpractice carrier opened a file. Human resources, not the partner's account, issued Russell's next paycheck, a distinction everyone in that office now understood perfectly. Russell requested a meeting with Mara directly. She declined it through her own counsel, in writing, in exactly 11 words. He kept his job, technically. He kept his salary reduced. He lost the corner office by the end of the quarter, reassigned to a smaller space 2 floors down, one with a view of the parking structure instead of the skyline. No one told him to move his things personally. He simply understood, the way people in that building had started understanding things now, quickly and without being told twice. No press conference. No public statement. Just paperwork, moving quietly through the systems it was always going to move through, whether anyone outside that building ever knew or not. Mara's divorce settled 2 months later, on terms her husband's own attorney described in writing as more than fair. A phrase that meant considerably more coming from him than it would have from anyone on her side. She didn't attend the final signing in person. She sent Denise in her place, recently promoted, newly and permanently aware of exactly which family had been signing her paycheck the entire time without either of them realizing it. The coins stayed on the reception desk for 3 days. Someone eventually swept them into a small envelope marked, simply, "Return to sender." No one ever did. Mara Holt locked her office door on the 44th floor. The one that had, in every legal sense that mattered, always been hers, and rode the elevator down alone. She stepped out into a parking lot lit orange by the last of the afternoon light, unlocked her car, and sat for a moment without starting the engine. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt, mostly finished. Somewhere above her, on a floor she owned but rarely visited, a folder was already being reassigned to someone new. A disclosure letter was already being reprinted, this time with a note attached asking that it actually be opened. Her phone buzzed once. A text from Denise. Case transferred. New attorney reviewed everything already. Says it's the cleanest file she's seen all year. Mara typed back 3 words, nothing more, and set the phone face down on the passenger seat. She thought briefly about the estate transfer papers still folded in her purse from 6 years ago. The ones she'd never needed to bring out today, because in the end, nobody in that building had asked her a single question she couldn't answer herself. Mara started the car and pulled out of the lot without looking back at the building once.